Autumn, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I just want to celebrate all of the women educators out there in the world, especially the award winners. But I couldn't let the month go by without talking to the Colorado State Teacher of the Year for 2022, National Teacher of the Year finalists. So, what has it been like as the State Teacher of the Year? And who are some of the women who inspire you each day?
Yeah, being the Colorado Teacher of the Year has been amazing so far. And we're only still in the beginning of the year, seeing as how it's still March. But it's been an awesome experience getting to meet people and really getting to advocate and share that Colorado story. I think Colorado is a unique state and we have just different ways of doing education. And so being able to share that story within the state, but also as being a national finalist, being able to share that on a national stage as well has been really powerful. Females that have really inspired me, of course, my mom. She was a middle school science teacher as well. And so just being able to follow in her footsteps and see all of those pieces. And then just different coworkers and mentors I've had along the way that have really just encouraged me to push myself and really just be the best teacher I can for my students. I'm just really grateful for all those relationships.
Your mom was a middle school science teacher as well. What did you see from her? What have you taken from her that's gotten you to this point?
I think just the ability to really always learn and grow as a teacher myself. I think so many times we as teachers, especially if you've been teaching for a while, can get stuck in a certain way of doing things. And my mom always pushed herself, and I learned that from her, to always just keep growing and learn new methods, learn new ideas, not being afraid to try them. Sometimes they don't work, but try them again and learn from that situation, and just continuing to grow because education is always changing. And so being able to change with this system really keeps things exciting.
Being a Latina woman, and Kurt Russell, who I had on a few weeks ago, he was the first Black male from Ohio to win the award. So history and heritage and diversity is on the ballot, if you will, right now. What does that mean to have so much diversity in this cohort? I talked to Lee Perez as well, Joshua Tabron, Dominique Foster, all from this cohort so far. What does that mean to you?
Our cohort is amazing. We are such a diverse group of teachers just advocating for our students. I am a member of Kurt Russell's biggest fan club. I love him. He is great. He's such a great educator and just really just doing amazing things. And we just have a group of teachers that are trying to speak up for our students. I think we all understand the importance of students seeing themselves reflected in those that teach them, and really trying to represent and support our students in all aspects of what we do. And so just being a member of this group, the top 4 finalists, like as a national finalist, I love how diverse our group is. We got to meet in person in DC about a month ago when we had our interviews, and just getting to meet them and interact with them and share stories was really awesome. I love just hearing people's stories and where they come from and what they've been doing in their schools. And then that just is contagious throughout our entire cohort. Doing a lot. Our cohort is doing awesome things to really make sure every single student is heard and seen.
We have made it 2 years, and now we're returning back to normal. You talk about meeting the other teachers of the year in person. And finally, you're back with your students in person. What has it been like returning to the classroom, returning to normalcy in this kind of monumentous moment right now?
Yeah, it has been really interesting. I was just chatting with a coworker today. In my district, we just sort of lifted our mask mandates in the last month, and students have slowly been setting their own boundaries and deciding when and where they want to take off their masks. And it's interesting to see students' full faces for the first time. Like some of them, I haven't seen their full face. And also just helping our students as we come back in person to celebrate all that they've achieved over the past 2 years. I worry so much that students are always told about all this learning loss that they have apparently lost over the last 2 years. And I try to celebrate with my students and let them know that they didn't lose any learning. They shifted what they learned. They didn't learn the science that maybe I wanted them to learn in the course of that time, but they learned a lot more. They learned how to learn online and in person, sometimes at the same time. They learned how to be flexible. They learned how to really take care of themselves and keep themselves and their family safe. And I think most of them probably have graduate degrees in technology, because at this point they've had to do so much along those lines. And it's been really exciting to see. I just did a project with my students where typically their presentations would be like maybe a slideshow or a poster. And 2 years later now, students are making video games. They're making videos. They just have this better understanding of technology, which is going to prepare them for the future, because the future is going to be a lot more virtual meetings. It's going to be a lot more technology. And so celebrating those areas that students have grown, instead of punishing them or making them feel bad about some learning loss that was supposedly had happened. Like, I really want to celebrate what the students have done. And I like to call it a learning shift, and really celebrate the shift in learning that my students have done, and use that as we move forward to continue to grow and learn.
As the Colorado State Teacher of the Year, you have been influential in shifting that learning. And like you said, there's going to be so many tech and Zoom and coding professionals that are coming out of this pandemic. We got to take a moment to talk about your classroom real quick. You're a sixth grade science teacher, so I know you had something to do with helping these students grow in those areas of STEM over the last 2 years. What was the biggest improvement you saw from students? What was the biggest change you've seen over the last 2 years once they ripped those masks off?
I think students have really learned just the ability to advocate for what they need. When you were online, you really had to be purposeful about it. And I really watched my students be able to ask for what they need. I used to get a lot of emails where the entire email was in the subject line. And now I'm no longer getting that. Like, we're learning how to just use that technology and how to use that piece. And watching students advocate for themselves is really a powerful lesson that a lot of times they don't learn till much later on. And so being in a situation where you had to really contact your teachers and let them know, because they weren't seeing you in person, has really built our students to be resilient. And I'm really confident that they are ready to face whatever is going to be part of their future as they continue to go through and grow up.
Students fought through so much over the last 2 years. And resiliency might be the term over the last 2 years. It's just been resiliency for everyone who was cooped up in their homes or teaching on Zoom, or a student who was wearing a mask. It has been a lot for so many people. But let's celebrate, the students right now. Where would you be if it weren't for your students?
My students were so great. My students kept me grounded, especially during these last 2 years, of really being able to check in and see where they're at and see what's going on. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was really scary because I didn't have eyes on them. I didn't know what was going on. And so I had to do the only thing that I could, and I had to meet them where they were at. And so I joined TikTok and tried to become a TikTok teacher and did all of those pieces.
You did not.
I did. I taught a lot of science lessons over the course of like 15 seconds. 20-second science lessons, because I knew that they would see it there. And so I have my states of matter, my ecology, different little lessons of like, how can I meet them where they're at so they can see that and check in and at least know that they're okay. And that just has continued throughout. Like, my students keep me grounded. They keep me knowing what's going on. They're definitely not afraid to tell me how it is. I practiced some of my speeches on them sometimes, and the feedback they give me is very intense sometimes, but I'm very grateful for it, because being able to have those conversations and let them see me as human and that I respect them as human. I'm just very grateful for them.
Open and honest 12-year-olds.
They can be scary. They can be scary.
Yeah, they can be pretty brutal. But teaching the whole child takes a community. That's what all of the teachers have said to me, over the course of the past 2 years doing these interviews. And so Dominique Foster, the DC State Teacher of the Year this year, an amazing woman, again, highlight, and shout out to her for Women's History Month. She teaches young students in DC, and she had a lot of parental involvement with teaching the whole child. And she thought that was important. She gave out Teacher of the Month and Teacher of the Week awards. What does parental involvement mean to you in your classroom, and how influential are the parents there in Colorado?
Yeah, I live in a small community in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, and I'm so grateful for it because it allows that community support to really penetrate the classroom. And I really also bring my students out into the community. I think sometimes middle schoolers can be a little bit scary because, no one really looks back on their middle school years and thinks like, oh my gosh, if only I could go back to middle school. Like, it's more something that you were like, thank the Lord I'm not there anymore. And so I really try to bring my students out into the community as much as possible so that they can get to know each other. We are actually planning for a big event at the beginning of May. We're a member of an EL education school at Glenwood Springs Middle School, and the first Friday in May we're having what's called the Better World Day, where we take our entire school is spending the day doing community service and giving back to our community, and having parents be involved in that has been really awesome. Because I live in a small town, I teach multiple siblings, and I love that aspect of getting to know the sibling, then the next one, and having those relationships with the parents. It's really important, and we both want the same goal, which is just to support, the child through their process of growing and turning into who they're going to be. I also really try to focus on helping, and with parent support, allowing our students to see that they don't need to wait to make a change in what they're doing. Like, if they see something and they want to make a change now, they can definitely do that. And I have had students have multiple situations, and when they've been able to demonstrate that. For example, I've had students partner with a local radio company, which is Andy Zanka Youth Empowerment Program, and they write public service announcements. We're in the process of finishing that up right now, that we put on the radio, where they're able to see something they want to change. We're doing mental health right now, and they're educating our community. So making that change right now when they see that. Another example is I had a group of students a couple years ago. We were finishing up a unit, and they wanted to raise money for a local lake that was going to be purchased and sold for development. And a group of students rallied around raising money to support this local land trust in purchasing the lake. And the land trust was able to purchase the lake, and it is now Colorado's newest state park. And so allowing those students and really getting that community and parent support, and allowing them to just, and encouraging them to make a change now, like a group of 11-year-olds that can do a lot of powerful things. And so I love having my parents and my community supporting us as we do those different projects.
I see the Ninja Turtles back there.
Yes.
So, your students seem like superheroes to me.
They're pretty good. They work hard, but they're still humans, just like I'm still human. We're all humans here needing to do our different things. And so I think humanizing them and celebrating them, it is important to me that they understand the names of all the Ninja Turtles. If they learn one thing from me, that's that.
Is it Donatello, D'Angelo? What's
Donatello? That's my favorite Donatello. One. Then we have Leonardo and Raphael and Michelangelo.
Okay, and then they had the rat, Mr. Splinter.
The Splinter, yep, Rat's the Splinter, and then Shredder is the bad guy. And 17 years I've been collecting Ninja Turtles that my kids have given to me over the course. It's been really fun. All of it has been given. I haven't bought any of the things. It's all been gifts for a long time.
Oh my goodness. Okay. We might need a max out time tour in a second. We might need the rest of the view. What else you got in there? We're gonna keep it moving forward. But teachers also need support right now. And I want to ask you. You talked about some mental health and other things that have gone on over the last 2 years. What's one thing that you would like to see moving forward in education that would support teachers?
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to first name the fact that it has been a really hard time, especially this last year has been harder than anyone even perceived. Just last week, I was talking with a friend who was contemplating not coming back next year. I think many teachers are evaluating, is this worth it? It's a lot of work, and we love our students, but if it's coming at the cost of our mental health, is it really worth it? And so I really want to reshape the conversation around teachers being superheroes, because we aren't. I'm not a superhero. I'm a human being that has to have time to eat and go to the bathroom once or twice a day. It would be great if I didn't have to work every weekend or stay late after school to get things completed. And so just, I think, having that support and really humanizing the teaching profession and really trusting our teachers to do what needs to be done. And I think we're in a really exciting situation right now in that we're just hopefully coming out of this pandemic. And as we move forward, we can really decide what do we want to do from the past and what do we want to take from the last 2 years, and we can sort of create whatever future we want for education. And so I'm really hoping that as we move forward, our policymakers really look into that and see what can we do to support our teachers, what can we do to help make sure we retain the ones that we have and attract the new ones that want to come into the field, because we are in a teacher crisis right now. And hopefully we'll be able to have some solutions moving forward so that we can keep having amazing teachers in the classroom.
What is your advice to a colleague of yours who's contemplating leaving the classroom, or a student or a young professional who is thinking about coming into the classroom?
Yeah, I just spoke last week with a group of AmeriCorps volunteers, and we talked about coming into the classroom. And there is a lot of work you can do out there, and I could definitely get paid a lot more money for a lot less stress right now, no problem. But I don't get to have those student relationships. I don't get to have silly dress up days. I don't get to walk down the street and see a former student and stop and talk with them for a while. I don't get to take my car into Discount Tire and see that all the people that are working on my car were former students, and then having to yell at all of them to remind them that, like, this is Miss Rivera's car. You need to tighten all the lug nuts before you put the tires back on the car, and like have those relationships and those moments. Like, that to me is one of the best parts. And for me, being with my students, it gives me energy, it gives me life, and really helps support my mental health. But I know that teachers need to set boundaries and need to do what they need to take care of themselves. So remembering the students and trying to have fun with your students when you can, I think, is one thing that's really exciting about teaching, and one thing that's helped me.
Thank you for those words and that advice to the aspiring teachers and the teachers who are going through, all of these emotions right now. And you're an advocate, and you're one of the, leading faces of teaching right now. So thank you for saying those things. But you're a finalist. Kurt Russell is a finalist. There's 2 more finalists who I hope to speak with as well. I talked to the Global Teacher Prize recipient, Keshia Thorpe, last fall, and she won $1 million for, winning that award. And not too sure if, your award does the same, but if you were to win, what's the first thing you're going to do?
I don't even know. It sounds so crazy to even think about that. I think, honestly, the first thing I would do is rush and tell my students. I really enjoyed having this process with them. From the very beginning, when I first was announced as a finalist for Colorado State Teacher of the Year, through where I am now, they've been the people I've most enjoyed sharing this process with. They want to know all of the things we've been processing. I show them pictures. I think because I'm gone so much, in Colorado, you don't get a year sabbatical, and in other states you do, but in Colorado we don't. And so I'm still teaching full time. And so I feel badly because I'm gone a lot. And so I try to really bring them along on the trip as much as possible to show them the different things. And that's been really fun. So yeah, if I were to win, I would definitely want to make sure I celebrated with my students.
Well, thank you so much, Autumn, for coming on the show, being my special guest, the 2022 State Teacher of the Year for Colorado. She's a National Teacher of the Year finalist, and she's doing whatever she can within her limits to help her students become difference makers in the world right now. And I want to thank you, and thank you for coming on during Women's History Month. I really appreciate you. Is there anything else you wanted to leave us with?
Just thank you for having me, and a shout out to my 2022 cohort. They're amazing. I'm just so grateful for their support. We're going to meet in person hopefully in a month, so I can't wait to meet them and just get to be in that energy of all of that amazingness. I think it'll be really cool. And just all those teachers out there, we got a couple months left. Hang on, you can do it. Summer will come. We'll get through this together. So thank you.